The 2024 RRSP contribution deadline is fast approaching. March 3rd is the last day to make those contributions if you're a registered retirement savings plan in order to deduct it from your taxable income. But how much should you be contributing? Joining us to discuss is Peter Stachecki from Everything Financial. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Yes, the deadline fast approaching, 3 weeks away, as we mentioned. So for the benefit of people who aren't familiar with RRSPs, they maybe haven't had to purchase them, or maybe they have them, they just don't really know what they do. How do they work?
Well, they're a registered retirement savings plan. There's the acronym. And what it is you're depositing money to an investment that you get a tax deduction on based on whatever your current tax bracket is or whatever the deduction tax bracket puts you in. And then you get to cash in that money later on in life, retirement, let's say, and then you pay some of that tax back. But it's a deferral. It's not a refund. People think it's a refund. It's a deferral. You're deferring tax to a later date.
And there's, to be clear, there's only so much you can contribute on an annual basis.
That's
Explain
right.
That part.
There's limits, but if you don't contribute the maximum, the great thing is those limits just keep adding up. And maybe you'll have a really large limit later on in life when you might need it for some other type of tax deferment. So you don't lose it if you don't use it.
Aha. Okay, that's good to know. And a lot of people are thinking, well, how much should I contribute? Well, first of all, probably depends on how much you can afford to contribute. That's a factor, obviously, but also it kind of factors into your income as well.
Yeah, there's tax brackets, right? So there's different tax brackets. So how much you should contribute really depends on the tax bracket you're in. If you're in the lowest tax bracket, you should never even do an RSP contribution because you're deferring. The whole purpose is to buy it at one tax bracket. So say you're in a 40% tax bracket, to buy the RSPs at that tax bracket, and then maybe you'll cash it in at a 28% tax bracket. Well, that's 12% in savings.
Okay, what's this example here on the screen, Peter? Maybe explain this.
Yeah, so if you look at that example at 40%, if you buy too much, though, in RSPs, Carrie, and you buy a lot, you could actually bring your tax down to 28%. Well, that makes no sense because people think, well, great, I'm paying less in taxes. No, you're getting 12% less of a refund. The whole purpose is stay in the bracket you're in. So buy enough in RSPs, maybe go right to the bottom of that 40% tax bracket. And when you cash it in and spend it, you want to be in a 28 or maybe even a 22% tax bracket.
So you're making much less.
And there's where the savings come in. Because if you buy it, and again, you'll get way lower of a savings, you can actually buy RSPs and go from one tax bracket to the next, and you think your refund is going to increase, and it will actually decrease because all your money gets a much lower tax savings. And on the screen, we showed 2 tax brackets, and I think in Canada, we have 87.
87 tax brackets?
No, it's not quite that bad, but you know what? If you saw the tax chart, we condensed it for people. There is so many different levels because you're combining federal and provincial, so you get all these overlaps in BC. And BC, it's pretty much the worst as far as how many tax brackets there are.
A lot of ins and outs there.
Yep.
So, but you're saying if you're in a lower tax bracket, that making this kind of contributions doesn't make sense?
No, because what are you saving? You're buying RSPs, and say you're under $50,000. That's roughly the lowest tax bracket. So you're buying RSPs in the lowest tax bracket, and you cash them in. You're not going to get any better than the lowest tax bracket. So you're really not deferring any gains in taxes. And the graph we showed, 40% to 28% is a good tax savings. You're earning 12% in tax savings. It takes a lot to earn 12%.
Is there something that people should be doing other than RRSPs then with that money?
Well, if you're already in a low tax bracket, load up on more TFSAs and load up on TFSAs and treat them as retirement, like long-term savings. So you might want to go into more diversified investments with more equity to have a longer growth cycle, not like a daily interest savings account, because you don't pay any tax on the growth.
Now or later.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So you've paid tax on the money going into a TFSA, but you never pay tax on the growth. So that's a topic for a whole other day, but we'll talk TFSAs one day, but it is a good alternative if you're in a low tax bracket.
All right, something to think about with that RRSP deadline approaching in a couple of weeks. Peter, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Carrie.
Have a good day.
You too.